Hello, and welcome back. Last episode, we walked through creating a Siri shortcut, and on this episode, we're going to update this perform method here to actually save our moods so that we can pull from it for the mood history view in our main app. We're going to break this down into 3 parts here. Let me write out some of the parts that we're going to go over, and then we're going to write it out in code. These are the 3 main things we want to accomplish here in the perform function. The first thing is we want to fetch the model container for that saved mood class that we made. And the reason for this is because if we grab that container, we know that that's going to be the same container that's going to be grabbed in our main application. So we're saving the data to the same place so that the main app can grab it. And the way that we're going to find that is by using a guardlet. You can also do this with an if statement, but I try to use guards when I can. I just think it makes the code cleaner. So let's guardlet that this container exists, and you have to mark it with a try. Let me write out the rest of this code, and then we can talk about what I'm doing here. I'm trying to create this model container, and I'm looking for it by using this saved mood class type. And so it's saying, hey, try to find the model container that has this type of class inside of it. If you can't find it, if it returns nil, then I want you to throw this error. Optionally, I could also just not have this guardlet, and I could just try to unwrap this like a different way, like just let container is whatever. And then if I do fail to pull this container, then it's going to throw the error that it normally would. But the reason why I have this guardlet instead is because instead of having this error being thrown that might not make sense to the user, I want to write my own error out. So let's go ahead and put that back. With the try question mark, it returns nil, and it says that, if you can use this container, go ahead and move on with the code. If you cannot find this container, then throw this error. And here I can show the user something they might not be super confused about. Here it just says sorry, something went wrong, but you can change this to whatever you want. And if the error is thrown, it not only prints to the console, but it shows the user a dialog box. So let's go ahead and do that so you can see what that looks like. I'm going to comment out our guard. I'm going to throw this error and run the code so you can see it. And something to note, if you are starting this episode, please delete your app if you haven't installed the Mood Tracker app and reinstall it, because you definitely want to start fresh for this. Let's open up the Shortcuts app. This is the Shortcuts app here. If you don't have your shortcut listed like mine, you can hit the plus button and search for log mood or whatever, and it should come up. And then you can just hit the play button. And then the first thing that it's going to ask you for is this parameter, right? So it's going to ask you which mood, and we can select something like pleasant, and then it tries to run this perform function, and that's when this error is thrown. And what's listed in this dialog is what's listed here under this NS localized description key. You can change this if you want. Cool. So now that we went over grabbing the container, let's move on to the next step. I'm going to comment this stuff back in, and then I'm going to get rid of this throw. We want to create the saved mood object. That's going to be super simple. That's just a line of code. Let saved mood equals saved mood. And we're going to give it a date and a mood. Like we did before, it's going to be today's date. And we want to normalize this date. And the reason for that is we want to strip out the timestamp information and any other extraneous stuff that comes with this date object that we don't care about. All we care about is the day of the month, the year, and that's it. And then for mood, we're going to use the mood from this parameter, so just mood. And the third thing is we want to save it to the model container. So that's going to be container, and then you're going to pull the main context, and you're going to insert it, and then we just want to pass in the saved mood. The next step is to save container.mainContext.save. And this throws. So if you saw, like as I was typing, it says it throws, so I have to mark this with try. And the other thing is it's asynchronous. So we need to mark these guys as await. And we'll go ahead and build. We're going to get a warning. Oh, okay. So before that, we're going to say we're going to get an error because I didn't import SwiftData. So import SwiftData. And then build. Okay. So we have this warning here. And basically what this boils down to is we need to run this on the main actor. And the way that you do that is with a try. And we need this try because there's a try in here. So we're going to like rethrows with this try. So try await and then main actor dot run. Okay, now that's done. Okay, so we're gonna have to update something in the mood history view so that we can actually pull the latest changes from the Shortcuts app, right? So if you have the app running, it loads up the mood history view and it pulls the data that it currently has from SwiftData. But if you modify something in the background and then come back to the app, it's not refreshing. It doesn't know to refresh. It doesn't know that we've added information to that SwiftData container. So we're going to have to tell it to refresh if we come back from the background. And the way that we're going to look for whether or not the app has come in from the background is to observe for a will enter foreground notification. There's this modifier called onReceive. We can look at that. And for the publisher, we're going to use the notification centers publisher for notification center publisher 4, and there's UI application dot will and foreground notification. Here we go. And so once we receive this notification, what do we want to do? Well, we want to refresh the data. So we'll say refresh data. And now we have to write this function because it doesn't exist right now. This can be a private function since we're not using it outside of this class. We don't want to handle any logic like refreshing data inside of this view. We want to get that logic from the view model. So we're going to just call the view model to refresh the data. And then let's define this inside of the view model. We can add this anywhere. Here's fine. And how do we refresh data? Well, it's exactly what we do on init, right? So we can basically do that. And we could, instead of calling these two again, just call refresh data here. Same thing. I don't know why that turned white, but it should be fine. Okay, let's unlock the phone and let's give this another try. So we got a crash. And the crash is because we have duplicate values for this date. And that's something we can fix pretty easily. Okay, let's jump into this now. All right, let's go back to our log mode intent. And one thing that we're doing here is we can save this saved mood. We can save a mood for the same date multiple times because we're not checking in the container whether or not that date already exists. But doesn't that sound familiar from the MVP? Because we've already done that logic before. And that logic exists down here when we save the mood. When we save a mood here in the main app, we check for whether or not an existing mood is there. Otherwise, we save a mood, blah, blah, blah. And we want to do something very, very similar to that. So let's go back and start writing that out. Let's just go over this line by line. Here, it's very similar to what we did before. We have this normalized date, and I'm just putting it up here because we use it a couple times. And then this is the same. We have the try await main actor.run. So we're running all this on the main actor. We have the fetch descriptor. This is how we're going to try to find the saved moods inside of our container, inside of our main context. We try to find the first one where the date is the same date as today. That's what that's doing. So try to find, so it's looping through each date inside of the main context and trying to find any that have the same date. If that is the case, then just change the mood. Otherwise, insert a new mood and then save. And that should work. Let's try running this. Okay, we have a warning here. Let's check out what that warning is about in a second. And yeah, it's still crashing because I haven't modified the container. So we're just going to delete and try again. So I've deleted the app and then I'm going to try to run it again. And every time you do that, you're going to have to trust yourself again. We're going to open up the Shortcuts app. I'm going to try to log my mood. I'm going to say very pleasant. Done. And now let's go back to the main app. And hey, it uploaded in real time. Excellent. I'll go back, run this again. I'll say very unpleasant. Done. Go back to the main app, and it changed. Excellent. All right. And that's pretty much everything that you need. That's how you would run Siri Shortcuts. The only thing that's left is to be able to run it with your voice. And there is a problem, at least right now, with the entitlements and all of that with Siri without having like an Apple developer account. So if people have enough interest in using voice to run these shortcuts, let me know. But right now, I think that this gets you most of the way there, and I hope this video helped you out. And I'll see you next time.